Most people don't enter relationships to get hurt. They enter because they want connection, safety, understanding. And yet, over time, many relationships slowly turn into a source of confusion, emotional distance, or quiet pain. Not because people are bad, but because clarity is missing. Here's something important that rarely gets said clearly enough. Love doesn't fail suddenly. It fades when two people stop feeling emotionally understood. In the beginning, everything feels effortless. You listen more. You assume good intentions. You forgive easily. But as time passes, expectations quietly replace curiosity. We stop asking, "What are you feeling?" And we start thinking, "You should already know." This is where most problems begin. Many couples believe conflict means incompatibility. But that's not true. Conflict is normal. What damages relationships is unresolved emotional confusion. One person feels unheard. The other feels unappreciated. And instead of addressing those feelings directly, both begin protecting themselves. Silence replaces honesty. Sarcasm replaces vulnerability. And emotional distance slowly feels safer than emotional truth. Here's a hard truth to accept. Most relationship problems are not about love disappearing. They're about emotional needs going unspoken or misunderstood. People often say, "We just grew apart." But what they really mean is, we stopped knowing how to reach each other. Another misunderstanding that causes deep damage is this idea that love should always feel natural. That if it's real, it shouldn't require effort. But emotional connection is not automatic. It's maintained. Just like physical health needs care. Emotional intimacy needs attention. And when that attention is missing, people don't stop loving. They stop feeling safe expressing love. This is where resentment quietly grows. Not from big fights, but from small moments that never get repaired. A message not replied to. A feeling dismissed. An apology never fully given. Over time, these moments pile up. And suddenly, the relationship feels heavy. Even though no one remembers exactly when it changed. One of the most damaging patterns in relationships is assuming intent instead of asking for clarity. When someone withdraws, we assume they don't care. When someone gets emotional, we assume they're being dramatic. When someone asks for space, we assume rejection. But most of the time, those assumptions are wrong. People withdraw when they feel overwhelmed. They get emotional when they feel unseen. They ask for space when they don't feel safe enough to stay connected. Without clarity, love becomes confusing. And confusion slowly turns into distance. Another common mistake is keeping score. Who gave more? Who apologized last? Who initiated effort? Love is not a competition. The moment relationships turn into scorekeeping, emotional generosity disappears. And without generosity, connection cannot survive. It's also important to understand this. Healthy relationships are not about fixing each other. They're about understanding each other. You are not responsible for changing your partner. And they're not responsible for changing you. But both people are responsible for creating an environment where honesty feels safe. Safety is the foundation of intimacy. Not attraction. Not chemistry. Safety. When people feel emotionally safe, they open up naturally. When they don't, even love feels exhausting. Many people confuse love with attachment. Attachment says, "I need you to feel okay." Love says, "I choose you even when things are uncomfortable." Attachment fears distance. Love respects boundaries. Attachment avoids difficult conversations. Love leans into them with care. Without clarity, attachment often disguises itself as love. And that confusion leads to emotional dependency, control, or silent resentment. Real love does not demand perfection. It invites honesty. And honesty requires courage. Courage to say, "This hurt me," without blaming. "This matters to me," without fear. "I don't understand you right now," without shutting down. Most relationships don't fail because people stop loving. They fail because people stop communicating honestly and start protecting their egos instead of the connection. Clarity is not about being right. It's about being understood. And understanding begins when both people slow down enough to truly listen. Not to respond, but to understand. When clarity enters a relationship, blame loses power, defensiveness softens, and emotional connection becomes possible again. This doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen perfectly, but it begins with awareness. Awareness of patterns, awareness of unmet needs, awareness of how silence, avoidance, or assumptions slowly damage trust. Clarity is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's intentional. And it changes everything. And once this awareness begins, the way you see communication, boundaries, and emotional responsibility starts to shift completely. That shift is where real healing begins. As clarity begins to enter a relationship, one thing becomes immediately visible. Most conflicts are not really about the issue being discussed. They're about how each person feels during that discussion. Arguments often sound like they're about time, money, or priorities. But underneath, there's usually something quieter being asked. Do I matter to you? Do you see me? Can I trust you with my emotions? When those questions remain unanswered, people stop talking honestly. They start reacting instead. This is where communication slowly breaks down. Many people believe communication means explaining themselves better. But real communication is not about speaking more. It's about listening differently. Listening without planning a defense. Listening without correcting. Listening without minimizing the other person's experience. Most people don't want solutions right away. They want acknowledgement. They want to feel that their emotions make sense, even if you don't fully agree with them. One of the most powerful shifts in any relationship happens when someone feels emotionally validated. Validation does not mean agreement. It means understanding. Saying, I can see why that hurt you, creates safety. Saying, you're overreacting, destroys it. And once safety is lost, people stop sharing what actually matters. Another silent issue in many relationships is unspoken expectations. Expectations that were never discussed, but somehow became rules. How often you should text. How much time you should spend together. How support should look. When expectations are not communicated, disappointment feels personal, and resentment grows quietly. Healthy relationships replace expectations with agreements. Agreements are spoken. They are flexible. They are revisited. Expectations are silent. They are rigid. And they often lead to conflict. Boundaries play a major role here. Boundaries are not walls. They are clarity. They tell someone where you end and where the other person begins. Without boundaries, people feel overwhelmed. With boundaries, people feel respected. Many people fear setting boundaries because they worry it will push their partner away. But the opposite is usually true. Clear boundaries reduce resentment. They prevent emotional burnout. And they create space for genuine connection. A boundary is not punishment. It's information. It says, this is what I need to stay emotionally present. Another common pattern that damages relationships is emotional avoidance. Avoidance can look calm on the surface, but it creates distance underneath. Avoiding difficult conversations does not keep peace. It postpones discomfort and multiplies it later. Unspoken feelings don't disappear. They turn into tone. They turn into distance. They turn into withdrawal. Eventually, people say, I don't know why, but I feel disconnected. Disconnection is rarely sudden. It's gradual. It happens when honesty feels risky, when vulnerability feels unsafe, when silence feels easier than truth. Repair is what keeps relationships healthy. Repair means acknowledging impact, even when harm was unintentional. It means saying, I didn't mean to hurt you, but I see that I did. This simple awareness rebuilds trust. Defensiveness, on the other hand, shuts everything down. The moment someone feels they have to protect themselves, connection stops flowing. Healthy communication focuses on impact, not intent. Intent says, I didn't mean it. Impact says, this is how it affected me. Both matter. But impact must be acknowledged first. Another powerful shift happens when couples stop trying to win arguments and start trying to understand patterns. Patterns repeat for a reason. The same argument showing up again and again is a signal, not a failure. It usually points to an unmet emotional need. Maybe it's the need for reassurance. Maybe it's the need for appreciation. Maybe it's the need for autonomy. When patterns are understood, blame loses its grip. Instead of asking, "Who's wrong?" the question becomes, "What is this trying to tell us?" This approach changes everything. It transforms conflict into information. And information, when handled with care, creates growth. Another overlooked aspect of clarity is emotional responsibility. You are responsible for your emotions. Your partner is responsible for theirs. That doesn't mean you don't care about each other's feelings. It means you don't expect the other person to regulate your inner world. Emotional responsibility creates balance. It prevents dependency. It encourages self-awareness. And it strengthens mutual respect. Love becomes healthier when both people can stand emotionally on their own and choose each other freely. This choice is what keeps relationships alive. Not obligation. Not fear of loss. Choice. When people feel chosen, they soften. When they feel trapped, they resist. Clarity allows people to choose each other again and again, without pressure. As communication becomes more honest and boundaries become clearer, something important begins to happen. Trust slowly returns. Not blind trust, but grounded trust. The kind built through consistency, repair, and emotional presence. And with trust comes deeper intimacy. Not just physical closeness, but emotional openness. The kind where silence feels comfortable and conversations feel safe. This is where relationships stop feeling exhausting and start feeling supportive again. But clarity does not mean perfection. There will still be misunderstandings. There will still be emotional moments. What changes is how those moments are handled. Instead of disconnecting, there is repair. Instead of assumptions, there are conversations. Instead of fear, there is curiosity. And this shift prepares the ground for something even deeper. A relationship that is not driven by fear of loss, but guided by mutual understanding, respect, and emotional maturity. That level of connection doesn't just improve the relationship. It changes how both people experience love itself. And this is where the real transformation becomes visible. As relationships reach this level of understanding, something subtle but powerful begins to change. Love stops feeling like something you have to constantly defend. There is less anxiety, less overthinking, and more emotional stability. This is what emotional maturity looks like in practice. Emotional maturity does not mean never getting triggered. It means knowing how to respond when you are. Instead of reacting immediately, there is a pause. Instead of blaming, there is reflection. Instead of withdrawal, there is expression. One of the clearest signs of a healthy relationship is emotional repair. Repair doesn't require perfect words. It requires sincerity. Saying, "I see you. I understand how that affected you. And I care enough to adjust," creates safety faster than any explanation ever could. Another shift that happens at this stage is a change in how conflict is viewed. Conflict is no longer a threat. It becomes feedback. Not feedback about who is wrong, but feedback about what needs attention. When conflict is approached this way, fear loses its power. Both people stop walking on eggshells. Honesty becomes easier, and emotional closeness deepens naturally. At this point, individuality and togetherness begin to coexist. Healthy relationships do not require losing yourself to stay connected. They allow both people to remain whole. Personal growth is encouraged, not threatened. Independence is respected, not punished. This balance is crucial. Without it, relationships slowly turn into control, dependency, or emotional exhaustion. With it, love feels supportive instead of restrictive. Another important element of clarity is emotional presence. Being emotionally present means showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. It means staying engaged during difficult conversations. It means not shutting down when emotions rise. And it means choosing connection over avoidance. Presence communicates care more deeply than words. It tells the other person, "I'm here with you, even when this is hard." This kind of presence builds deep trust. Trust that does not depend on perfection, but on consistency. Consistency in behavior. Consistency in effort. Consistency in emotional availability. Over time, this consistency creates security, and security allows love to breathe. At this stage, love is no longer fueled by fear of losing the relationship. It is guided by respect. Respect for boundaries. Respect for emotions. Respect for differences. Differences no longer feel threatening. They feel informative. Instead of trying to change each other, both people become curious. Curious about perspectives. Curious about needs. Curious about emotional patterns. Curiosity keeps love alive. Another important realization emerges here. You cannot build a healthy relationship with potential. You build it with reality. Loving someone for who they might become creates frustration. Loving someone for who they are, while allowing space for growth, creates peace. Acceptance does not mean settling. It means seeing clearly. And clarity is what prevents resentment. This level of love is calm, not boring. Calm. Calm does not mean passion disappears. It means passion is no longer mixed with fear. Connection feels steady. Communication feels honest. And emotional intimacy feels natural. This is the kind of love that supports long-term connection. Not because it avoids difficulty, but because it knows how to move through it. When clarity guides a relationship, both people feel more like themselves, not less. They feel safe expressing needs, safe expressing boundaries, safe expressing love. And when love is expressed freely, it becomes stronger, not louder, stronger. Relationships don't need constant intensity to survive. They need understanding. They need emotional responsibility. They need presence. And above all, they need clarity. Clarity does not remove challenges. It changes how challenges are handled. Instead of creating distance, they create growth. Instead of causing fear, they create understanding. This is what transforms relationships from confusing and draining into supportive and meaningful. Not perfect, but real. And when love is real, it doesn't feel like something you're constantly trying to save. It feels like something you're choosing every single day.